was difficult for me to decide exactly what we will say today, but I think what our experience is with our clients, I would like to mix it in, and specifically the things that make it difficult for clients to make, for our clients or people in South Africa that make decisions. I think the main reason why we're here today, because all of us starting to discover there's smoke coming out of Eskom. That created a problem for us. I just want to say it's not so unique. We have worked through some of our partners, Schneider, with the World Bank, and this thing happened all over the world. You can go and research it a little bit and see utility death spiral. What happened there is you have a reduced energy sales. With that come increase in the cost of energy here at the bottom, and so it go round and around and around, and it happened with all utility companies right over the world. It ends up to a total collapse of the system, and then a new system is born. Reason for that is because the old legacy systems become too expensive, and there's more cost-effective ways of doing things. What we have here today also is South Africa, the 25% reduction in the consumption of electricity with the same GDP. Exactly what happened. So we use 25% less energy, and Eskom overhead stayed the same. Now Eskom need to increase the prices. More people decide to move away from Eskom, selling less power, and so it continues on and on. So the end result of that is disruption, and that's where we're standing now. So we can sit, and I think what we normally will do, especially after COVID and these things, we can think, but we are so tired of all these things, we hope it will go better. And then we did not make any nice decision at the end. The end result of that is ending up in a disaster. And we don't want that, and I think that's the main reason why a lot of people are here today. Just to illustrate this, the next slide is, we have in 1900, Fifth Avenue, New York, spot the horse, or spot the car. You'll see the whole street is full of horses. You can just think 2 years after that, what difficult time it was for these people when they're starting to realize everything will change. It's 13 years later, and you cannot see one horse in the same street. That is what disruption brings to us. So we have no doubt that Eskom is also in a utility death spiral. I don't think it will end that Eskom will not there at all, but the reality is we are in a death spiral, and we need to understand that. If we see now, Eskom fixed cost is 60%. Eskom have, from NERSA, have get the approval 2 years ago that the new tariffs that will come out will reflect this. So 60% of your monthly cost will be fixed, and 40% will be variable cost. You can just think what that will do in typical farmers that use pumping 3 months a year. It will just becoming too expensive. Network becoming more unstable. What we find here is in our clients' networks, and this is out of experience, we have put data lockers on for the past month. We have found certain, close to Delmas, certain of the Eskom networks that have 18 power interruptions per day. And I couldn't understand it, and we investigated a little bit, and we find it is doves on pigeons on the lines. And due to the fact that the lines is not maintained, it is very loose, and then there are flashovers there. We have, in some other cases, we find on our data loggers, the voltage on the same point is between 340 volt and 490 volt fluctuation. And that's a clear indication that the whole Eskom reticulation network is busy to falling apart. And then on top of that, we have load shedding between 8 hours and 16 hours per day load shedding. What we find here is we have previously early today we have some guys has mentioned that the electricity energy availability factor is just going downwards, and we can say, well, hopefully the new energy minister will bring it within a week or two up to 80% again. It can happen, and the reason why I put emphasis on that is in our mind, we normally think, well, there's no new energy minister, everything will be solved. Gone there. Now, I want to show you, even if that happened, we have problems. This one. And this specific slide is from Eskom, is from the energy plan. We find here power stations are decommissioned. So first Camden, they're busy to decommission Camden. There's some people that try maybe to stop this and see if they can extend, but the reality is Camden is old. The reality is Hendrina is old, and so you can continue up to Grootvlei. That batch up to Grootvlei was built in a certain era. The next Arnold, Kriel, Matla, Duva, Tutuka, Letabo, Matama, up to Kendall was built in the next phase. That was end of 1990. So you can see we sit here now here, and we have load shedding. We're sitting there about 50% of that here. So here we have load shedding. This is not working, and this is working. Now we're moving up, even if we go up to availability factor of 80%, if we move up 5 years, we hit it again. And then the reality after that is even worse. We can say, well, renewable energy will solve the problem. We have even taken it further with Jan Oberholzer and posed the question to him just to make sure if Eskom understand what the future will bring in. Because if you start decommissioning these power stations, and I flag something, if we start decommission power stations to this rate, you decommission not just the power station, but you decommission rotating mass, inertia. Kendall sitting with per generator 300 tons of rotating mass that rotated 3,000 RPMs is a lot of energy. So you decommission that system, and you replace it with a system that has no inertia. Solar, wind, these things have batteries, have no inertia. They've tried in some other countries with synthetic inertia. It's not working nicely. So what will happen, and we will foresee that, is Eskom, Simmerpan, National Control, have in the past about 2 to 3 hours to react. It shrink now to something like a couple of minutes. In future, it will shrink down to seconds. So if a power station trip or something happened on the grid, they have less than 3 seconds to act, to make sure the grid stays stable. And it will even go up to such a point that Eskom will switch off or force you to switch off your solar system, because the solar system creates instability on the national grid. And that is the future that we will face in future. I think the one thing that I would leave with you, in disruptive times, we need to focus on outcome and not on the disruption. So we can focus on Eskom and all the problems around Eskom, that we cannot stand 2 steps back and look at our specific business and say, well, we need to start thinking differently. And I just want to quickly show you how we need to think differently. A typical year might be irrigation system. And we have a lot of farmers that say this, but we need to irrigate during night time. I said, why? No, because there's a lot of reasons. There's new technology like LEPA systems that you can do irrigation through daytime with minimum loss of water. So there's a lot of new things coming in that we can use to make our system more friendly for power use just in certain times of the day. The next one we find in typical farmers, with irrigation system, they have a pump system. You know, I've put a curve down here, and they're running the pump down this side. So they run with efficiency of about 35% on the pumps for years. So they want the solar system to reduce costs. We quickly look at it, do a couple of changes, spend 200,000 rand, and they run the pump now at 80% efficiency with huge saving. So we need first, and I think that's the most important thing, we need the demand side integration with supply side. In the past, we've built a plant and then we ask Eskom to supply us power. We need to change totally the way we're thinking. You need to integrate whatever you want to do. If you want to put up a factory, integrate the factory with the solar system. There's huge savings in that. I'll give you one example of that. We have done a power supply, total off-grid system for silos, storage of grain. The requirements was at the end, the battery will be about a 12 million rand battery, and then the solar and all the other rest of that. I look at the energy consumption, they need quite a lot of energy from 2 o'clock in the morning up to 6 o'clock. Reason for that is then the air is dry, and they blow fans through that. And I asked the question, why we're not putting dehumidifiers in? No, there's no option for that. At the end, the cost of the dehumidifiers was 2 million rand, put that in, and have 8 million rand saving on the battery. Because we integrate the demand side and the supply side. Very important. If you're busy with a house or a small installation, might be the effect is not so big, but if you start going for big installations, the integration between your supply side and your demand side, extremely important. And then the last thing that I want to leave with you there is Eskom in the future, and for self might be, or we cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we use when we create them. Albert Einstein. That's it.